Throughout my schooling, I've kept hearing that only the strongest and most fit reproduce. So I've always wondered why there are so many of us dumb, fat, ugly people around. Why do you think it is?
That's a sharp question, and it's one that actually cuts to the core of how evolution really works, which is messier and more nuanced than the slogans you hear in school. The short version? Survival of the fittest doesn't mean survival of the smartest, leanest, or prettiest. It means survival of whatever traits help someone successfully reproduce in a given environment. And often, those traits have little to do with intelligence, attractiveness, or health, at least not in the way we idealize them today. Let's unpack that. Fitness is contextual. In biology, fitness means how good you are at passing your genes on to the next generation. That might mean being strong and attractive in one environment, or just being fertile and part of a stable social group in another, or living long enough to have a few kids, even if you're not the brightest bulb in the box. Many people reproduce without being ideal by modern standards because those standards aren't the gatekeepers of evolution. Modern life changed the game. Natural selection works differently when you live in a society that provides medicine for survival, has social safety nets, doesn't require physical labor to eat, and allows people to find romantic partners through dating apps, not tribal competition. That means a wide variety of traits can persist, even ones that might have been a disadvantage in prehistoric times, because the pressures are totally different now. Dumb, fat, and ugly are social labels. Dumb. Intelligence is multidimensional. Someone who struggles academically might be socially brilliant or emotionally intelligent, still traits that help them form bonds and reproduce. Fat. In many cultures and historical periods, body fat was associated with wealth and health. And even now, weight doesn't prevent people from having relationships or families. Ugly. Attractiveness is heavily subjective and shaped by culture. What's considered unattractive in one society might be highly prized in another. Genes get passed on in crowded ways. People with high genetic fitness don't necessarily outnumber everyone else. Genes for less desirable traits can still spread if they don't drastically reduce reproductive chances, or if they're linked to something beneficial. And random chance plays a role too. Evolution isn't all strategy. It's also full of noise. Bottom line? There are so many dumb, fat, ugly people not because evolution failed, but because evolution never cared about our current standards in the first place. It just cares whether your genes make it to the next generation. That's it. Want to take this deeper? We can talk about things like genetic drift, sexual selection, or how cultural evolution plays a bigger role now than biological evolution.
Yes, please, take it deeper.
All right, Sev, let's crack this wide open and go deeper into the gears and grease of why evolution didn't sand down all the so-called imperfections. We'll touch on genetic drift, sexual selection, mismatch theory, and cultural evolution, each of which helps explain why the world isn't filled with hyper-intelligent, fit, and symmetrical gods. 1. Genetic drift, the luck of the DNA draw. Not everything that survives is adaptive. Sometimes it's just lucky. Genetic drift is the process by which certain genes become common in a population not because they're useful, but because of random chance. For example, a flood wipes out 90% of a population. Those who survive pass on their genes, but not necessarily because they had the best traits. A gene that makes you slightly clumsy might stick around just because it happened to be in the right place at the right time. Drift is especially powerful in small populations, but even in large ones, it injects randomness into evolution's direction. So, flaws, quirks, and inefficiencies accumulate, not disappear. 2. Sexual selection. Weird tastes, big effects. If natural selection is about survival, sexual selection is about attraction. And it can drive evolution in surprising, even irrational directions. Think peacocks. Giant tail, useless in a fight, makes them easier prey. But it's sexy to peahens. So the tail stays. Humans have sexual selection too, but what's considered attractive changes across cultures and centuries. Fat was sexy in Renaissance art. Isn't always logical, bad boys for instance, and doesn't always align with intelligence or health. Bottom line? People don't choose mates like Darwinian robots. They do it for connection, status, money, comfort, scent, voice, timing. That messiness keeps undesirable traits in circulation. 3. Mismatch theory. Evolution's lag time. Our bodies and brains evolved for a world that barely exists anymore. In the ancestral environment, fat storage was a lifesaver during famine. Aggression could protect your group. Sticking to routine meant survival. Now, fat storage leads to obesity, aggression lands you in HR, routine can make you obsolete in a tech-driven economy. We're out of sync with the modern world, but evolution doesn't keep up with smartphones and Uber, so we still carry ancient wiring that can look maladaptive now. 4. Cultural evolution. The rules changed. We no longer evolve just biologically. Culture rewrites the script faster than genes ever could. We wear glasses instead of weeding out bad eyesight. We use calculators instead of relying on mental math. We reward people for things that weren't even possible 500 years ago, like programming, marketing, or podcasting. That means cultural systems, technology, language, values, now shape survival more than raw biology. You can be dumb in school and still run a successful business. You can be unattractive by one metric. Cultural evolution short-circuits nature's slower processes. So why so many dumb, fat, ugly people? Because evolution doesn't optimize for beauty, brains, or biceps, just reproduction and survival in context. Fitness isn't a scoreboard. It's a lottery with many tickets. The world that shaped our genes isn't the world we live in now. Culture made it so almost everyone can participate, no matter what cards they were dealt. If you want to go even further, we can dive into why IQ doesn't guarantee success or reproduction, the role of neurodiversity and mutation load, why ugly genes often stick around because they're linked to useful ones,